2 years ago, I decided that I was ready to get a dog. Everything had seemed to fall into place. I had the house, the yard, the normal work hours, the income. I thought I had enough income. I was wrong, but I thought I did. Everything seemed to fall into place, and I was ready to get a dog. So I spent weeks online at petfinder.com looking at all the available dogs. Every picture broke my heart, and I wanted every dog to come home with me. But there was this one dog that I was drawn to. I kept checking for him every morning to see if he was still online. Half of me hoping that he had found a good home, but the other half of me hoping that he was still online and there waiting for me. He was an older gentleman with a handsome face and these big brown eyes, and I was just drawn to him. So I finally worked up the courage to go to the shelter and meet him. I say courage because that's exactly what's required for me to go to the shelter and not come home with 27 dogs. But so off to the shelter I went. And there, among all the other dogs, was my dog, looking up at me from behind the kennel gates with these big brown eyes. In my head, I could hear Sarah McLachlan start to sing that song. And because I've been conditioned by that song, I was trained to immediately start crying and writing checks to people. This dog had been at the shelter for over 6 months. The volunteers didn't understand why he hadn't found a good home yet because he was such a sweet dog. But he was listed as a 12-year-old Mastiff mix, and I guess no one else wanted to risk making such a short-term commitment to him. But when they brought him into the visiting room so I could meet him, all I could see was 100 pounds of big brown dog, tail wagging all over the place, and this huge head that did the best doggy head tilt I had ever seen. That's my kryptonite, the head tilt. I had found my dog, and his name was Oggie. So that big tank of a dog came home with me. It was fun getting to know him and his habits, such as how he's obsessed with bunnies. I always know when there's a bunny in the yard because I'll see him start to slowly reach towards the back door, intently staring at something in the yard. He'll assume the position. He's alert. He's ready to charge. He's ready to destroy the bunny that dared to enter his yard. And I'll go, and I'll slowly start to open the back door, a little bit at a time as he gets more and more excited. And as soon as it's wide enough, he'll charge at the door and after the bunny across the yard. He's never once actually caught the bunny, but he thinks he might have a chance at some point, even as he gets older. And it's not enough for him to just chase after the bunny. He'll then do a full perimeter search of the yard to make sure that there are no other bunnies that have intruded on his watch. Oggie does have his faults, though, such as his selective deafness. In 2 years, I don't think he has ever actually once heard me say the words come, sit, stay, no, dear God, stop licking that dog. But if you try sneaking a cookie while you think he's not paying attention, he is right there instantly looking up at his cookie jar, reminding you indignantly that you forgot to give him his cookie too. He's also a compulsive blanket thief. There are now 6 blankets on my sofa, but I'm lucky if I get to use one of them. I've learned that when 100 pounds of dog is sound asleep snoring on that pile of blankets, you just accept you're not going to get a blanket there. He's sneaky too, though. He'll come up and snuggle in between you, and he'll wedge himself between you and the sofa. And you, because you're a sucker, you look and you think, oh, how sweet is this? But within minutes, he's slowly starting to stretch himself out. Subtle as can be, you don't even notice it, but he's stretching himself, taking over the blanket and the sofa. And so finally, you're balancing yourself on the edge of the sofa with one leg teetering on the floor, trying not to fall off. You'll finally just decide to get up and go all the way over to the other side of the sofa and sit. Don't forget to get yourself another blanket before you sit back down. We have had our rough patches over the past couple of years, though, too. About 6 months after I got him, his kidneys started shutting down. He spent 3 days alternating between the regular vet's office during the day and the emergency animal hospital overnight. I spent those 3 days crying. Every day I had to make these heartbreaking decisions for this big, dumb, lovable dog that had stolen my heart. Do you pay the $400 for the Addison's test, or do you try treating for a potential infection? Do you want the emergency animal hospital to do another blood test at 3 a.m., or do you try waiting until 8 a.m. when he gets back to his regular vet's office at half the cost? But every day, even on his worst day, when I went to pick him up, there was my Oggie, still wagging his tail, still happy to see me, and still trusting completely that I was making the right decisions for him. After 3 days of vet's offices, x-rays, ultrasounds, that $400 Addison's test, 5 full blood panel tests, and over $2,000 of vet bills, my Oggie finally came home. I was never happier. The kidney failure was most likely caused by the arthritis pills that he was taking, but the damage done to his kidneys was permanent. He's lost about 75% of his kidney function at this point, so he's on a strict diet of prescription dog food only. He takes daily pills for his stomach and to prevent ulcers. But the wonderful thing about my Oggie, though, is that he doesn't know that he's sick. Nobody told him. He's still on permanent bunny watch every day, although he moves a lot slower getting out the door, and he usually just goes out far enough to make them kind of move. But he knows that his food bowl is always full. He knows that his Calm toy is loaded with a treat and given to him every single morning. And he knows that the sofa is always full of blankets ready for him to sleep on. So here we are, about 2 years later. The vet gave us about less than a year left for him to live, but we've now hit almost 2 years together. I may not have much time left with my dog, but I wouldn't trade a minute of the past 2 years with my Oggie for any other young pup out there. That's